Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to dive deep into Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. I have a lot of theories, and so I'm opening up a discussion. So first of all, let's talk about the loading screen for Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. Chapter 1, A Tight Squeeze. As an ex-employee of Playtime Co., you finally return to the factory many years after everyone within disappeared. Okay, so I have noted that it's many years. They don't quite give you like an estimate on how long it has been. When you're first playing the game, you play it at face value. I wasn't really paying attention to those small little details like many years after everybody within disappeared. Like, what do you mean they disappeared? How many years are we talking with many years? This little intro also tells us, which I did forget while recording the entire chapter 1 and well into chapter 2, that it starts with as an ex-employee. So right off the bat, we know that we are an employee. Okay, we don't know our identity as to what employee we are, but we are a employee. So that also brings up another question. If everybody is missing and everyone's disappeared, why are we not included in that? That's one of my first questions is, you know, obviously Playtime Co. got shut down, okay? Because as an ex-employee, I mean, were we fired before whatever, you know, these stories and these chapters have to offer? Like, were we fired before that? And it's been years since anyone has been back to the factory, and so we are like, okay, well, you know, these are people that I used to work with, so let me go and see if I can't investigate and find out where they're at. Are we an ex-employee because the building got shut down? Are we an ex-employee because we're partly to blame for everybody within being missing, like going, you know, being disappeared? Like, what is our identity? Because the most that we know is that we used to work for Playtime Co. And we also know that everybody within has disappeared, but yet here we are, not disappeared. So that's kind of where I wanted to start things off. We die, okay? And within dying, I wasn't really paying attention in the beginning to what we were being told when we died. So I'm going to go over the messages. So the first one is, more lives are at risk than just yours. Now this is game number 1. So looking at everything face value, that's a shocking thing to see. More lives are at risk than just yours. What does that mean? What does that imply? What does that, you know, stand for? Why are their lives at risk, and why is my life at risk? The next one is EXP experiment 1006. Isn't he wonderful? So the first question that I have is, who's experiment 1006? Now, the only character that we have met in chapter 1 is Huggy Wuggy. I feel like it is safe to assume that maybe Huggy Wuggy is experiment 1006. I don't know for certain if Huggy Wuggy is experiment 1006. This is the only time that I remember seeing anything like that when it comes to 1006. And it shows up during one of the death scenes. Well, the only way that you can die in chapter 1 that I have been able to find is at the hands of Huggy Wuggy. So it is very heavily implied that Huggy Wuggy is an experiment and that his number is 1006. So right off the bat, we're like, okay, that's interesting. What are you an experiment of? So while I was on the hunt for a picture or a little clip of something for a little later, I found this. Huggy Wuggy doesn't have claws for hands. He has a mitten looking thing. Like, his hands are like this. And he's a doll, so he has doll hands. So the only argument that I have against us thinking that Huggy Wuggy is experiment 1006 is this right here. Because the other half of the statement in the death scene is, isn't he wonderful? And this picture implies that maybe 1006 is not Huggy Wuggy and some sort of creature with a claw for a hand. So while Huggy Wuggy is the only, creature that we have encountered so far in chapter 1, we're getting a hint of possibly a second creature that could possibly also be 1006. And then it says, isn't he wonderful? Well, if we're talking about Huggy Wuggy being 1006, no, he's not wonderful. Let's also unpack that. When you first see him in the game, he looks like a doll. He looks like a live statue of a doll. He's got really fluffy fur. He looks really soft and cuddly. He's got a smile on his face. He's got his little bow going on. And there's nothing scary about him other than the fact that we know that we're playing a scary game and he's by himself. And he's holding up his hand. I kind of feel like maybe he's trying to wave at us. I don't know if, he knew that we were coming and so this is him greeting us. If Huggy Wuggy is an experiment, maybe Huggy Wuggy knows who we are. And so we walk in and the first thing Huggy Wuggy does is, hello, type situation. Because you also realize in the beginning of the game, we only have one hand. And he's like mirroring what we're doing, basically, because we're holding up the hand. That's just a little stretch. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but he seems friendly in the beginning, like he's waving at you. Playtime Coaches has, their most popular toy on display, and that's just the stance that they put him in. I think in the beginning, yes, he is wonderful. He's supposed to be this loving character that wants to just give you hugs. And when you see him again, he's being a little creepy. He's got his hand sticking out of a door and just resting on the wall. And then when you get close enough, he pulls it back, but he's not like attacking you. He doesn't you can walk right up to him and touch him and be all around him and walk away and turn your back on him. And he stands there in the beginning and he doesn't want you to see that he can move. So when he gets the key, he won't get the key if you're looking at him. He will only grab the key when your back is turned. And then you hear the key and then you turn around and boom, he has the key. And he allows you to take the key and walk down an entire hallway to turn on the power. And then when he disappears, he doesn't instantly come after you. And then when we turn the power on in the other room that it comes out of, when we first actually see Huggy Wuggy as a bad guy, when I was allowing myself to get got so that I could jot down all of the death messages, when you're in that hallway, he will not get you. And that could just be the game and the people who created the game allowing the player to have some sort of time to get away from him before he gets you, because you're literally trying to walk through the doorway that he's coming out of. And so if they allowed you to get got in that doorway, I feel like he would instantly get you the second he spawned. The second he walked through that door, he would get you. But the second that he steps through that doorway, you can get got. You can get got. And you'll notice as well that he's no longer fluffy. He looks old and matted. He looks like he has gone through the washing machine a few times. His fur is more flat and worn down almost. And he's got this used look to his face, and his body is more defined. It's not like, you know, curved and body parts are connected. It's more like, this is my top part and it's cut off here, and then my legs. So he looks more robotic almost. Like something possessed him. Literally goes from like a nice, stuffy, fluffy doll to this demonic form, and is completely run down looking. And he's got this giant smile and rows of bloody teeth inside of his mouth. So I would say that no, he's not wonderful in the end, but I definitely think that he looks possessed. He looks demonic. And he's experiment 1006 is what we're going to say for now, until we are given proof otherwise. What does that mean? For chapter 1, what does that mean? He's an experiment. Well, then the next death note that I wrote down says, don't let them inside. Inside of what? Okay, this is another face value thing that you see in chapter 1, and you're like, what could they possibly be inside? Who's they? Or them? Who's them, first of all? And inside of what? So I feel like chapter 1 is going to fill you with a bunch of questions that should start and kickstart your brain to being like, okay, what's the bigger picture here? What are we looking for? What are we, you know, seeing the beginning results of? And then you think back to Huggy Wuggy potentially being this experiment. So it's kind of like, okay, don't let them inside the doll. Is the doll possessed? You know, don't let them inside of my body, my own being, so that I'm not possessed. You know, inside the facility. Like what exactly are you talking about here? And then the next one says, innovation is key. Thank you, science. I don't know what that means. And I do have another note somewhere that kind of brings up innovation. And then chapter 2 also brought up innovation as well. So here in a little bit, I will explain more on my thoughts for that. But then whatever this innovation is the key. And because that's the key, I think that's where we need to be. And then it says, thank you, science. So science somehow is involved in whatever shenanigans is happening here. And because of that, I'm thinking that experiment 1006 was created using science. So I think Huggy Wuggy was brought to life using science. How at this point in time, with it being only chapter 1, we're not really sure. So let's just go on to our next little thing for now. It's too early to die. I would agree with that. It's chapter 1. We have at least 4 out right now. I can't be dying and being dead for good in chapter 1. I have other chapters to be in. I have answers that I need. Then it says, I need you alive. Who are you, first of all? Like, who's speaking to me? Who's saying that they need me alive? And why do you need me alive? Everybody inside has disappeared. So maybe they're, you know, maybe they're dead. And it's the other people who are like, you might not be able to save me, but you can at least lay us to rest. You know, so I need you alive so that you can find our remains. And, you know, help our families heal a little bit. Or something dark like that. And then it says it's not your time. So they're kind of like playing God. And I feel like maybe some of the the notes that is given could totally just be the game and being like, okay, well, you know, you're dying in this game, and in a video game, if you die, you just start back over to retry it. You don't actually die and stay dead. So it could just be like little clips like that, to be funny. And then if they hit you with death isn't permanent, what does that mean? Death isn't permanent. Like reincarnation, resurrection, the afterlife, coming back as a ghost. And does any of that have to do with experiment 1006 and the science? You know, is death not permanent because of science? And if that's the case, did someone die to become Huggy Wuggy? And they were reborn as Huggy Wuggy, so their death wasn't permanent? Were they turned into Huggy Wuggy, so they're still alive? Like, what's going on here? That's kind of what I'm thinking about when it comes to Huggy Wuggy and these three notes right here. Well, then the next one says, don't die just yet. Okay, that can play into those other three. Then the next one was jumbled up and upside down letters. I don't really know how to depict that. I don't know what that's supposed to mean or what it actually says. I just know that it's a bunch of jumbled up stuff. Maybe it's Huggy speaking. Now, with that being said, I want to talk about the tunnel messages, because right after we are introduced to Huggy Wuggy, in order to escape that room, you have to go through a bunch of vents in order to get to this area, and it's just a whole lot right up front. And when you're running from him and you're in these tunnels, there's a bunch of messages written in bright colors. And yes, I allowed myself to get 1001 more times so that I could try to read as many of these messages as I possibly could. First one that I saw was right after we come through and Huggy is coming up the vent in front of us, and there's a path that takes us down to the right. There was a small little message that says danger, and then there's a bunch of arrows pointing to a small drawing of a door. After finishing the game, we know that there's a door at the end of this tunnel, and we're at the flower, and there's a door over there. And I think that that is what this note is talking about, that beyond that door is danger. Behind that door is Poppy. So now the question comes up, is Poppy dangerous? And whoever wrote these notes is trying to say something to whoever's going through. I don't know if they are a cry for help. Someone somewhere decides to come back and try to save people or investigate or whatever they feel. So, and then I see the word don't. And turn back. And stop. No. So I'm like, okay. So danger, don't, turn back, stop, and no. Those 5 things are completely repeated throughout the entire thing. So whoever wrote this was like, you don't want to do this. No, just stop. Stop here, turn around. There's danger beyond this point. Don't do it, okay? And then the tunnel hit me with an Elliot bad. Now this is the first time that we are hearing of an Elliot. Who's Elliot and why is he bad? The question that might arise is Elliot behind this door? You know, is Elliot involved somehow with the danger? Is the danger talking about Elliot? The next one says, I'm so hungry. So whoever wrote these messages was starving and probably trapped. I just thought of something. This entire time that I'm talking about people coming into these tunnels to leave messages for whoever could be following, I keep thinking to myself, how are they in these tunnels and writing these messages when the entire time that we are in the tunnels, we're being chased by Huggy? Granted, Huggy was on the podium when we came in, and we literally had to walk past Huggy in order to get to these tunnels. So we attracted the attention of Huggy. I don't know if whoever wrote all of these messages would have been safe from Huggy because he was on the podium. I don't know if they would have been able to be in there and writing these messages before he found them. But also, these messages, they were spelt correctly. They were written in multiple places, in multiple different colors, and they were all capitalized. So, I think an adult wrote them. I think, or maybe even, I don't know, in my brain, someone to fit an event like this. I mean, Huggy fit an event, so maybe an adult. I'm assuming that since we're an ex-employee, we're an adult and we fit in events. So, I don't know. And it says, I'm so hungry. And I'm thinking to myself, when we get got by Huggy, what is he doing? He's eating us. He's coming at us with bloody teeth. Circles and circles of sharp, bloody teeth. And he grabs us, and when you see the death scene, when he gets you, he's got saliva dripping out of his teeth, and it looks like he's about to chomp into you. So I think that Huggy Wuggy wrote these messages. And I just came up with that because I have been sitting here the entire time while talking to you, wondering, well, how does someone write all of these things in here without there being any smears? There's no smudges. Nothing is half written. It doesn't look like whoever was writing them got in the middle of writing it. Granted, most of these are small one-worded things like no. It doesn't take a whole lot to write the word no. But if someone's chasing you in the vent, your first thought is not to stop and write the word no on the wall. My gears are turning here. So we know that there's an experiment 1006, and we're left to assume that that experiment is Huggy Wuggy. Does that mean that Huggy Wuggy was not Huggy Wuggy prior to being this experiment? Because if Huggy Wuggy is a doll, and we're thinking that Huggy Wuggy is the one that wrote all of these things, I think that Huggy Wuggy was turned into Huggy Wuggy. I don't think Huggy Wuggy was who he is currently. And whether that was, I don't know what he would have been. I don't know who he would have been. I just know that he's in the vents and he is chasing us through the vent and he's trying to eat us. And this note says, I'm so hungry. And so I feel like maybe possibility that either there was a person who somehow, some way was able to get into these vents without Huggy Wuggy chasing them and write all of these messages. There's not blood splatter all over the vent, so there's zero indication that someone got. So whoever wrote these had time to sit there and actually write them out. There's no sign of a struggle, nothing. The further you get into the vent, the more jumbled up they get, and that's just because the words themselves are being overlapped. Danger, turn back, stop, no, all of the things are being written on top of each other. So it looks more cluttered, but there's no scratch marks, there's no blood, there's no smears. Words are fully written out. There's nothing that's indicating that there's a hassle. So either Huggy Wuggy didn't know that they were there and he was on the podium the whole time, or Huggy Wuggy is the one that wrote them. And if Huggy Wuggy is the one that wrote them, then Elliot did something bad to Huggy Wuggy. And Huggy Wuggy is starving because he's so hungry. So the next one that I wrote is leave her to die. Is Huggy Wuggy telling us to leave her to die? Because like I said, when we first see Huggy, he doesn't seem hostile. He does not appear to be a bad guy. He looks like he's soft and friendly and just wants, a good time. And then when he's trying to get us, his features change and he looks more demonic, more possessed, more eager to kill. So, first of all, who is her? Leave who to die? Well, after finishing chapter 1 and knowing that beyond that point is Poppy, is Huggy, and we're speaking as if Huggy is the one that wrote these notes, okay? Is Huggy telling us to leave Poppy to die? And is Elliot going to kill Poppy? Like, it says Elliot bad and leave her to die. So, did Elliot and Poppy hurt Huggy Wuggy? Then I found the word stranger. I don't know what that means, aside from the fact that it's a person you don't know. Could Huggy be talking about himself? If Huggy wasn't like this before, and Huggy had this sense of humanity to him by being able to write all of these things, and he's turning into this creature that wants to devour humans, could he be talking about himself when he says stranger? Then I find the word bad, starving, and so hungry. So nothing good is coming of this vent. And it's kind of sad, honestly. It's really sad. And then when we get to the flower and we get to the door, around the door says run, go back, stop, no, run, danger, turn around, no, stop. And there's toys hanging down from the walking bits. And that's like your last chance before you meet Poppy. So now that I've talked a little bit about those messages and what that means in regards to Huggy Wuggy, let's go back a little bit. I want to talk about after we enter the game and we're in the commercial. The game implies that we have played the commercial tape, and then at the end of the commercial is a letter. We get a letter from someone, and it's sitting on the desk with a tape, and it's got a drawing of the flower. Everyone thinks the staff disappeared 10 years ago. We're still here. Find the flower. My little Ralph over here. Skip, featuring Ralph, the cat. Anyways, okay, so let's talk about this letter, okay? Because much like the introduction to chapter 1, there's a lot to unpack with this letter, okay? Everyone thinks the staff disappeared. Disappeared is misspelt. Instead of 2 P's, they have 2 S's. That's kind of interesting. That little typo is going to play hand in other things later on. Also, it says 10 years ago. Everyone thinks the staff disappeared 10 years ago. Before, it says many years after everybody within disappeared. Now we have more information on how many years it has been. So we came back 10 years after everyone thought that everyone inside disappeared. So at the very least, we were gone for 10 years. Now, that's a big gap. Okay? If we are someone who used to be an employee and we got fired before whatever happened, I don't think that we would come back 10 years after the incident happened. I think by that point, I'd be like, okay, well, I worked there long before it got shut down. And if they disappeared, I'm not trying to disappear with them. It's been 10 years. I'm not trying to go back. I also feel like if it got shut down and that's why I lost my job, and everyone thinks that, everyone inside disappeared, and it's been 10 years since then, would I want to go back and investigate the place 10 years later? I feel like 10 years is a long time to wait to go back to somewhere if we're going to go back to investigate what happened to our employees, our coworkers. Which is why I think that we're a survivor. Or maybe not a survivor. I don't know. Maybe we are one of the employees that disappeared. And maybe we escaped. Maybe we are a survivor and we found our way back here. But also I have a theory to go against that as well. Because we really just don't know and we got to cover all bases. If we are a survivor, why would we go back to where it started? I'll answer that. To save our friends. To see, maybe we're the bad guy. Maybe we're Elliot. And we went back to see if we won. If what our plan was worked. Maybe we're just really curious because it's been 10 years and no one's, been found. No one knows what happened. And you're like, I'm tired of waiting for these answers. It's been 10 years. I'm going to do it myself. Maybe we got tired of waiting. The possibilities are endless. 10 years is pushing it. Maybe we couldn't do anything about it. Maybe we were silenced for 10 years. Maybe we were in a state where we couldn't move and we couldn't say anything. We couldn't do anything to help. Like maybe... Oh my God. I need to write this down to bring it up later after we start talking about chapter 2. Okay, now, the reason why I'm going to debunk my own theory that I just wrote down is if you look back at the picture of the tape, the vintage, Poppy vintage commercial, and our little note that we were given to find the flower, underneath both of those things is a bubble envelope. And what appears to be a TV screen. So, on one hand, because I don't have a physical image of the picture in front of me, so I'm going based off of memory when I'm saying this. Option 1 is someone from Playtime Co. sent us, the ex-employee, mail. And when we opened the mail, it was a vintage Poppy commercial and a note. And because we got these things and we watched and we read them, we decided it's time to go back. So here we are. Someone reached out and said, yo, we're still here. Help me, basically. And whoever we are was like, okay, I'm coming. And then showed up at the factory and found Huggy Wuggy. Option 2. It could have been a recording. Because why would it be on a TV? It makes sense for the commercial to be on the TV, but it doesn't make sense for the VHS tape, the envelope, and the note to be on the TV screen. So maybe they're trying to give us an illusion, or us as the player and the ex-employee, as if we had just opened that for ourselves and gotten it. Like I said, it's chapter 1. There's a lot of things that we don't know, and things that can go one way but easily the other way. Things that could be but also very well might not be. It's a lot of back and forth, if you ask me, which is fine because it's just chapter 1 and we will have more answers later on. So with that being said, I want to take a look at the Poppy commercial.
You are about to see the most incredible doll ever invented. Her name is Poppy, and she is the first truly intelligent doll in the world. A little girl can talk to her. Poppy gives her answers. She is the first doll actually able to have a conversation with a child. Hard to believe? Just watch.
Poppy Playtime!
Poppy's as lovable as a real girl, and she talks like one, too.
Hi, my name is Poppy. I love you. Can you help me polish my shoes?
Why, of course, Poppy. Just like a real girl, Poppy always wants to look her best.
Perfect! Thank you.
Her hair is sturdy and won't come out when you brush it, and smells just like a poppy flower. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Poppy?
I'm a real girl, just like you.
What's the time?
Playtime!
And if you've ever wanted to see how all of the nation's favorite toys were created, Playtime Co. is now offering factory tours at just $2.99 a person. An entire hour in the most magical toy factory on Earth. What are you waiting for? Come visit the factory. We can't...
So first of all, I have to laugh at myself because I went back to get the commercial, and at the end of the commercial is when you get the vintage tape of the commercial and the letter. When I got it for the picture, I just took my camera and took a picture of my TV where it was at. So the TV in the picture is my own TV, which means we can fully go back to the theory that it's possible that someone from Playtime Co. put the vintage tape along with the note in the bubble envelope and sent it to us. Completely accurate to believe that theory right there, that we were given this information in the mail, and because we received the tape and the letter, we went back to investigate and found Huggy. Okay, so let's dive in to this tape, okay? Because a lot of stuff happened in the tape, much like everything else that I brought up today, okay? So in her video, Poppy says, "I'm a real girl, just like you." Was this a cry for help from Poppy? We already know all of these speculations about Huggy Wuggy possibly being a science experiment 1006. We know that Elliot is a bad person who probably did something to Huggy, and it is implied that Huggy wants Poppy to be left to her death, which means that she's also done something bad. It also just says danger. So are we talking about Poppy, or are we talking about something beyond Poppy? And when we're specifically talking about Poppy, I feel like we have something similar happening with Poppy that we have with Huggy Wuggy. So her saying, "I'm a real girl," she's a talking doll. So it makes sense that they put that in there of, "I'm a real girl just like you," for a child, talking to a child. But as an ex-employee of Playtime Co., I'm looking at this commercial and I'm like, did something happen to Poppy? Something similar to what we're thinking happened to Huggy Wuggy. And is this a cry for help? Is she actually a real girl? The video also keeps referencing the flower. not the poppy flower, though it does reference the poppy flower and Poppy's name. It kept referencing the flower that we found her in. So was that a clue? Saying, hey, Poppy flower, here's this flower. The note has a flower on it. We get through the tunnel and there's a giant flower. Was that a clue from Poppy to say, hey, I'm in the flower. Hello, I'm here. I'm in the flower. I'm a real girl. So I think that maybe it was a cry for help. And I think that maybe, just maybe, something similar is happening to her that was happening to Huggy Wuggy. That's all I can really say as far as that goes, other than the fact that there's a glimpse of Poppy dolls being made. So obviously there's a million of all of these creatures because, well, it's Playtime Co. These were toys that were made for children. So there's going to be multiple. And I feel like this one is special. I feel like something bad happened here. And I think that it did not just get Huggy, I think it also got Poppy.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at the Playtime Co. Toy Factory. If you're seeing this, then you're trespassing. Yeah, we play this little tape on loop whenever we close the factory for the day. So, trespasser, just to make you aware, while we pride ourselves primarily on our high-quality toys and excellent child care, we also pride ourselves on our security. For example, this facility is full of hidden motion triggers, which, once set off, will turn on the factory's emergency alarms and directly contact the authorities. And that's one of the more tame aspects of our security system. No spoilers. So, you've got my warning. It's not too late to turn around. I just hope that you're certain whatever you're doing is worth it.
Okay, so we just took a look at the Leith Pierre video that we get in the beginning of chapter 1 when we walk inside. And yes, you've guessed it. I think that this video is sus. Because I think there's more to it than what originally was thought. First of all, we know that during the death scenes that I had talked about, one of the things that was said was innovation is key, thank you science. One of the things in this video that Leith Pierre left for us says, head of innovation factory. He says you should turn around and not go in, and says that he hopes you are certain about whatever we're doing. So now I've got a couple of theories here. So first of all, head of innovation factory. Innovation is key, thank you science. So now I'm thinking this has to be somewhere in Playtime Co. There's somewhere that we need to find that says innovation. And when we go into the room where Huggy is on his pedestal, there is an area around the room that is titled innovation. It does not have a handprint. It does not have a regular door. So I think that the answer to everything that we need is behind that door. But as far as chapter 1 is concerned, there is zero zip not a way to get into that door. So I think whatever's going on here, whatever's happening here, with the death message and Leith Pierre's video, I think that the innovation wing is definitely where we need to be. And as far as chapter 1 is concerned, there's no way to get there. So what else does that say for us since we can't go into there? So did all of this happen in the innovation factory? So something else that, and I do want to note that I think that this might be another cry for help. Okay. So there's some inconsistencies and not full truths and maybe hidden messages within Lath's video that we just watched. So first things first, the image on the screen is of Huggy Wuggy's hand. And Lath Pierre is saying that he's the head of the Innovation Factory. And he's talking about a security system. So now I'm wondering if Lath Pierre and Huggy Wuggy are the same. And if they're not the same, because obviously one is a human and the other one is a doll, could Huggy Wuggy have been a security guard? He's literally the first thing that you see when you walk in. But I felt like it just kind of seemed like maybe Huggy and the security kind of go hand in hand. Because when he was talking about other parts in the video, he said that they have the video playing on loop and that the building is triggered or set up with a bunch of motion triggers that will alert, the authorities and to come to the property to say, hey, something's happening. And that these are just the tame aspects of everything. And they have other security systems set in place. So if Huggy Wuggy is not a security guard, turned somehow into this doll-like being, then whatever happened to Huggy happened before this video. And Lath is like, if Huggy Wuggy has to catch you, Huggy Wuggy's gonna kill you. That's not tame at all. So I think that him saying tame aspects was a warning. Like, this tape is a warning. Me telling you that the tape is on loop is a warning. Me telling you that there's motion sensors that will alert the authorities is me warning you. Because if you don't heed those warnings and you really think that you know what you're up to and you want to proceed, we have other security measures that are less tame. And that security measure is Huggy Wuggy. And if Huggy Wuggy gets to you, you're as good as dead, homie. I don't think that's a good, whatever. So whether Huggy Wuggy used to be a security guard or not, he definitely is now. So here's another thing on why I was saying it's a cry for help. Because the tape is not on loop. Because we literally find the tape sitting on the desk. It's not constantly playing in the background. We physically have to pick the tape up, put it in the DVR. We literally have to put it in the system and watch the tape. And then when the tape ends, like whenever the recording ends of the tape, it just stops playing. It doesn't start over. There is zero loop happening here. Also, there is no motion triggers throughout this facility. We're not tripping anything, and the authority is not showing up. So I'm trying to figure out why he would say that there's motion sensors when there's not. The only thing that I can think of to be a trigger is when we use the grab pack hand to put it on the palm reader thing to open up a door. But that's not a motion trigger. That's me placing my hand on it and it running the scan of the hand and saying, yes, this is a property from Playtime Co. We recognize it. Here's the door. The door's open. So I think that this may be like a cry for help or just like a warning. Maybe Lath Pierre is trapped in the innovation wing and we can't get to him. Maybe he's the one who's trying to send us messages, who's trying to be like, hey, hello. I hope you know what you're doing though, but we need your help. That's basically the extent that I was thinking about when looking at Leith Pierre's videotape. The fact that it's Huggy's hand, and he's talking about security systems and stuff, that made me think that maybe Huggy Wuggy used to be a security guard. And if he wasn't a security guard before, he definitely is one of the best securities from, you know, keeping trespassers out, because obviously he eats people. So if you run into Huggy, you're SOL. So the next thing that I think that I would like to go over is the room where the podium is with Huggy Wuggy. So we already talked about the innovation door. So then there's a door with the red and blue hand that is also just brick. But that door has the 2 handprints, so we can potentially go in there. However, when we're playing the game, we don't have the opportunity to actually see what's behind that door. The only option that we have after getting the blue hand is literally to open the door that has the blue hand on it. And you literally have to use the key in order to open the door that says power. But after you go through there and you turn the power on and all that other stuff, you go into the other room. And once you leave that room, because you have to go and get the red hand before you can open the other door. But once you pass a certain point to go and get the red hand, the doors behind you shut, and there's no way to open them once you're through. It's one of those things that, you know, if you're going to go in, you need to come out before the doors shut. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck and having to find a different way to get back to the entrance unless someone comes and opens the door for you again. So the process about, you know, about that aspect is kind of faulty, because obviously if I'm a worker or a customer or whatever and I go through a door, I want to be able to come back out. I'm thinking that the innovation door is exactly where we need to be, and because it doesn't have a key or anything, we can't get in there. And because we are unable to use the red and blue hand to open the other door, we're not able to get in there as well. So the doors that we can't enter that are in this room is testing, innovation, theater, red/blue hand door, the cafeteria. And these are all doors and places that I want to go investigate. I want to go in them. I want to go in the room. I want to see what's behind them. I want to know more about this place. I feel like the chapter had so much more potential with all of these rooms that we cannot enter. And I want to know, will we end up being able to come back here in a later chapter? Or is things hitting the fan so much that who cares what's behind these doors? Nothing behind these doors is going to help solve whatever we know later on. It's kind of like one of those things where you're like, oh, I want there to be a bunch of locations that people can potentially go into and all of these things. But then you're on your quest to doing something, and then something else happens and you're like, whoa. And because of the events that take place, you're no longer able to go back anyways to like complete them. So obviously we're unable to get through all of these doors because we passed a specific point that cut off our access to be able to do so. So my theory here is, what if someone knew that we were here? Someone knew that we were investigating and they didn't want us to see what was behind some of those other doors. And so when we walked through to go get the red hand, when Huggy Wuggy was kind of luring us out of the way, what if someone shut the door behind us? Like someone was watching us and was like, if I don't close them out, they're going to come back and find all these secrets that I don't want them to know. So we'll let Huggy lure them away from this room, and then when they're through that door, we're going to close it. There's something else that I've also taken note throughout playing chapters 1 and 2, is that they have names on all of the rooms, whether that's a bay number or that's an actual room. And there's a lot of areas in these certain places, and there's a lot of doors, and I'm certain that some of them probably all go to multiple locations. So there's probably multiple ways to get into one room. Were we able to physically do that ourselves? Not necessarily, but it's just a thought that I had. Remember, do be kind to others. Show up on time. Not hide behind doors to scare Laith Pierre. Don't stay past 8 p.m. Misuse company time. Tamper with machinery. Enter innovation wing without authorization. Okay, so this poster here. So it says don't enter innovation wing without authorization. And the death message said that innovation is key. So that's exactly where I have to go. But I can't get in. And we know that Laith Pierre is the head of the innovation factory. So we know that he's a part of that. Just the word innovation keeps coming up in different places. And this is another thing that was kind of like, you need authorization in order to get in. I really want in that wing. For an area that you're not allowed to be in and whatnot, there's a lot that's pointing towards that room. And I'm here to investigate. As the player, I'm here to investigate. I'm here to find answers, and I want in. Okay, and I'm seeing all these things. I'm like, let me in to see what you're hiding. Okay, what are you hiding? I also want to know why it's a rule to not stay past 8 p.m. This is a scary game where some shady shit is happening. So in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, does 8 o'clock also have something to do with the shady shit?
Rich, where are they keeping the Huggy boxes?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Remember when maintenance left did a sweep of this place?
No.
Exactly. Nobody in this stupid company knows what they're doing. Oh, I swear, I haven't seen a single box in its place since they started flooding the storehouse with orphanage junk.
Right.
I get it. It's a nice program and all, on brand, but it's just hard to be happy about it when manufacturing's on our necks about it, because we can't find stupid Huggy boxes.
Rich.
You're right. You're right. It's for the orphans. I just wish there were less boxes. Anything less would be more habitable. Is that even a word? Habitable?
So then we come across this video, and it's of Rich and Avery talking on a security camera. And Rich is very, very angry because Avery's like, I need these Huggy boxes, and Rich is just like, no one's been down here to clean up anything, and it's overrun by all of these toys, like, no one knows what they're doing. And between the two of them, they bring up orphans. And I believe that this is the first time that orphans are mentioned at all in any of this. And he's angry because all of the extra shipments and stuff that they're talking about are for these orphans and this new orphan program thing. So the first thing is like, okay, well, is Playtime Co. making and having all of these boxes of the toys to send out to the orphanage? Or like, where do orphans come in? And we already know that other shady shit is going down because of Huggy and because of Poppy. So my only other question regarding the orphans is, how do the orphans fit into all of this? More is happening here. A lot more is happening here. Okay, so I found a piece of evidence that helps bring in more to our theory about Huggy Wuggy and something going weird with him, something being weird and off with him. Let's watch. So here we can clearly see Huggy Wuggy. I believe after getting all of the batteries and then opening that door, it triggers him to come to the vent. And this is the first time that we see Huggy Wuggy with his teeth. He's getting a little hungry. He's getting a little demonic. He's changing. Because when we first see him, he was very lovable looking. He looked like a doll. He looked harmless. And then he started moving, and then it was the hand. And then now this. I was walking around the room after I saw that, and you could see him from a bunch of different angles. But he's there, and he's just staring at that location where you're gonna be. Like, he's waiting for you to show up because he's looking, and he knows, in my head, he can smell you. He can smell us. So he knows that we're there, and he can hear our footsteps because obviously we're coming out of the room, and he knows that we're gonna get, to the top to put the batteries and stuff. So he hears that door open, and he's like, oh, I've got company. And then we come around and we go up, and boom. And when I was recording it, I didn't even see him. I heard it shut, but I didn't even see that he was there until I was editing the video. And then I was like, oh, that's creepy, Huggy. But that's the first time that we see him with his mouth open. And he's getting hungry. Like, he was fine and probably starving. And then food showed up, and he's like, let me play with my food a little bit. Let me, pretend that everything's fine, and I'll leave you alone to do whatever you're doing for a while. But then we started digging, and we started getting closer, and we started finding things, and we started knowing too much information. And he was checking in, and he was like, I see that you're still here, and I'm hungry, so the longer we're here, the more hungry he gets. And I think that that's kind of like the turning point where he's like, this is happening, something's going on. And then the chase happened. The chase with all of the writings on the wall. And well, let's take another look. I have something to show you. Also, if you listen very carefully, you can still hear something crawling through the vents. After we drop the box on Huggy and he falls to his death, those 3 spots are where Huggy hit. So when we killed Huggy Wuggy and he fell and slammed into the paths below, he left blood splatter on each one he hit. Dolls don't bleed. People do. So why is it that Huggy bled? Huggy, who's supposed to be a doll, how is it that he bled that much when he hit those 3 things and fell down there? The only explanation is somehow, some way, Huggy is literally alive. Huggy is not who we think that he is. I think somehow, some way, Huggy was turned into what he is. I think whether it's a person in a costume or it was a person turned into Huggy, Huggy had some sort of real life in him. And Huggy was not just a doll. This makes me think even more that he is the one that wrote the stuff in the vent. And the fact that he bled like that, I spent a lot of chapter 2 worried that Huggy was going to come back. Seeing and realizing this, I don't think that that's going to happen. And if it does happen, it's not because, you know, he survived. It's because of whatever crazy cuckoo shit happened to him. I think there was a moment where after the box had hit him, he turned back into the non-demonic looking form of himself. His mouth was closed and his fur was more, you know, pokey or whatever. It was more like, oh, I'm scared now, I'm about to fall. And he fell, all right. He fell and he hit hard. Something's going on. Something fishy is really going on. Okay, so I need you to take a look at this because the eyes are drastic. First, his eyes look real, glossy, and very much present. You can see the eye behind all the blackness. And then just nothing. It's just a black hole, and it looks like the eyes were literally cut out of the head. Like, I don't understand what's going on here, but like I said already, something is going on here, and it's a lot more than what we think. When we first find Huggy, there's something that I noticed in the room where we have to make the toy in order to open the door that allows Huggy to get to us. Let's just check this out real quick. Okay, so this theory is a little bit out there. It's a little far-fetched because it's already difficult to wrap our heads around how a human could potentially turn into a doll like Huggy Wuggy. But why is the machine following me wherever I go? And it's not like an illusion of the eyes following you. No, the eyes are quite literally following me. Like, if you look at the parts where I'm literally as far back as I possibly can, the little pupils are literally so far into the corner to look at me that it looks like the machine has white eyes, like plain white eyes. Like, that is how much those eyes move to follow the character wherever in the room you put the character. And it is the only machine that does this. The only machine. And not that there's really anything hidden in it, but it could. At some point in the poster that we had read earlier, it mentioned something about not messing with the machinery. Now, I don't know if that's machinery just in general in the whole entire building, or if that was in the innovation wing. I don't know if we're in the innovation wing right now and this is just like a back way into it and we don't realize that we're in the innovation wing. It's a bit odd because to an extent it feels like the machine is alive. And it's kind of weird the way that the eyes follow you. All of the other shady shit that we found about Poppy and Huggy Wuggy in this chapter, and then to see the eyes looking like that is kind of like, is the eyes a camera? And someone's on the other side looking at us, and having the movable eyes like that is their way of being able to keep their eyes on us. Maybe this is like a test. Maybe they want to see how I react to Huggy. Maybe they want to see the performance of Huggy. Maybe Huggy was being controlled by something, and in order to fully see what was going on in this room, they needed eyes in there. Now, there's cameras everywhere, so I don't see why they would have to put them in this form in a machine. And the chase literally goes into the vents, so that also doesn't really make sense with that theory. So maybe it's not that theory at all. I don't know. I feel like whatever happened with this machine and whatever's going on with Huggy Wuggy, they might be connected in some sort of weird way. Huggy Wuggy's eyes are very big, very interesting like. And the eyes that are in the machine are kind of different. So, I don't know. Maybe they're kind of combined together somehow, some way. It doesn't make sense. How would you turn a person into a doll, let alone a machine of some sort? But it almost seems like that's what's going on here. So if we go back to Avery and Rich's video, there was a claw hand, like from a claw machine. We are thinking that this machine might be some experiment within itself. And Rich and Avery's video had the claw hand. And if we're gonna make the same type of assessment that we did with Huggy and how I'm going to make with Poppy, it implied to me that someone in the video was turned into Huggy. And so maybe that by having the claw for a hand was not necessarily the claw machine, but Rich and or Avery are also a machine now. I think in order for that to happen, it's more so the brains of the operation. I don't know how that would fit into the eyeballs moving the way that they do. Maybe they're trapped inside this machine. And so the eyeballs moving around the way that they move around is just how they focus that. I've got this clip from Stella that we should take a look at.
So, Stella, what made you want to work at the Playtime Co. factory?
Playing with toys when I was young was so magical. I could go straight from my bedroom floor to anywhere in the world. It was such a great feeling. And being able to work at a toy factory, somewhere that can provide kids with that same experience, that's a pretty great feeling too. Sometimes though, I really, really wish I could go back. To being a kid, I mean. And it's weird, because adults are just kids, but older. I don't think anyone ever really feels like an adult, but your body just gets older and older, and then you die. Poof! Human bodies just can't stay young forever. There's things though, like some trees that can stay alive even while being way older than a person. I mean, the oldest people to ever live are still younger than those. So I guess everyone is always young relative to something. Right?
All right, I think we're getting a little off track.
Okay, so that is Stella's voice talking about dolls and the lifespan of a child and going from a child to an adult and how, you know, the life just dies and you want to be a child forever, but there's always life in things, even if those things are older. You can still be young inside, even if on the outside you're not. Or vice versa. The picture is Poppy's hand. So much like I'm thinking that Leith Pierre is Huggy Wuggy, I'm thinking that Stella Graber is Poppy. Also, I would like to point out, Huggy Wuggy doesn't have any speaking clips, so he is not in the credits. But Poppy and Stella are. And I will show a clip of the credits because, yes, I recorded a clip of the credits for this exact reason. And I not only recorded a clip of the credits, but I also, of chapter 1, but I also recorded a clip of the credits for chapter 2. Because it's the same in both chapters. Stella and Poppy are voiced by the same actress in every language that they put up there. They have like 3 or 4 different languages where they listed Stella and Poppy. And the actress for every language that they recorded this for was the same for both of those people. So my theory is that Stella Graber was turned into Poppy and Leith Pierre was turned into Huggy Wuggy. And I believe that, unfortunately, but also not unfortunately, I believe that we killed Leith Pierre. Like, killed him. Because if he was killed, or something was done to him to turn him into Huggy Wuggy, well, we kind of sort of ended Huggy Wuggy when he was attacking us. So, rest in peace, Huggy Wuggy / Leith Pierre. And Stella / Poppy is out to get us at the end of chapter 1. That was a lot right there. If you liked this video, drop your theories. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you disagree with me, what are your actual theories? I want to know all of the theories, and together we will figure this out. The only thing that I ask is don't spoil it for people. So if you have any chapter 1 theories, leave those down in my comments, and I want to hear them all. So if you like this video and would like to see my other theories video on chapter 2, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
You opened my case.